In today's weekly Forex forecast, we're talking about the DXY, the EURUSD, the Pound USD, the dollar versus the yen, and also the Australian dollar. And look, guys, I was wrong. I was wrong recently. I thought that the DXY was headed higher. Clearly that's not what we got here following the breakdown from 105.50. So back here, I was looking for a fill of this wick back here, followed by maybe some consolidation through here, and then a move higher back here toward those recent highs. And clearly that's not what we got. We got something very different here from the DXY with it breaking down below 105.50. Now, I didn't lose a lot of money on this because I always manage my risk, but I did want to come out and say that I was wrong about these markets. And that happens, right? As a trader, you have to be okay with being wrong. Otherwise, you are going to blow up. And so looking at the DXY right now, guys, we do have it breaking below this trend line here that we've talked about recently. So off of this 2024 low, technically this was the 2023 low from December. Now looking at 104. Okay, here's what I'm watching next week. Obviously the market is breaking down here, so the dollar is bearish, and I'm taking nothing away from that. I don't mean to say that, you should be looking to buy the dollar here without confirmation. But the confirmation part of that statement is what I want to focus on. Okay, so we have, clearly the market moving lower here into support. Now, my style of trading, what I tend to look for is a failed breakout or breakdown. And so when we look at 104 for the DXY, instead of buying right here, which is what a lot of traders are going to do, they're going to be buying through here, which means that there are going to be stops building up down here. And in fact, because of all these lows back here, there are stops that have already built up down here in this area. And markets seek liquidity because stop loss levels, guys, are just liquidity in the market. And so knowing that markets seek liquidity, what I'm looking for is a potential sweep of these lows down here. Okay, so something down here in this area. And furthermore, what you're going to notice here, and we talk about this a lot on this channel and website, but what you're going to notice here is that this candle right back here, this big green candle, notice how following the breakout from that candle, we never actually saw a retest of this area. Okay, so if I draw a box down here, what you're going to notice is that there was never any movement down here following this big green candle. We saw a little bit of a retrace through here, and that was very much the market sweeping this low right over here. But we never really saw anything down here in this area. Same thing over here. Okay, so again, there is liquidity that's built up down here right around 103.50. So that could present an opportunity for next week. So what I'm watching for is a potential sweep down here, maybe a slight bounce from this level, and then a sweep down here in this area. And then if the DXY can reclaim this, okay, next week on a daily closing basis, then we could get that rally up here toward this imbalance up here and potentially a retest of that trend line. So that's what I'm looking for next week. Now, again, this does not mean I'm bullish on the US dollar. It has a lot of work to do before we see that. But I do think that if you are trying to buy the DXY right here at 104 exactly, I think that that's very dangerous just because we do have a lot of liquidity that's built up below that area. And again, markets seek liquidity. So knowing that, I'm looking for a flush down here right around 103.50 in that general region before a potential bounce. But the DXY would have to reclaim 104 after dropping below it. So next up, we have the EURUSD, which has clearly given us a breakout this week. And this is another market, guys, that I was wrong about. I was clearly looking for a potential sweep above this area back here, followed by a rotation back toward the lows. We didn't get that, and the market is moving higher. So, that's the thing about trading, guys. You can't expect to be right all the time. It is going to happen that even significant narratives of yours for markets are going to fail. And that's what's happened here. Now, with the EURUSD, we are seeing it climb above 1.086. So this is going to be potentially significant for next week because this area is going to flip to new support for the euro. Now we have levels like 1.0925, which is more of a minor level. Then we have areas like 110 that is going to be a more psychological level for the euro. So if we move into the daily time frame, all right, what you're going to notice here is that we have this minor pivot. Again, this is more of a minor level back here at 1.0925. So this is going to be resistance up here. You can also see where it's very close to this high. So we probably get the EURUSD sweeping this high from right back here sometime next week, maybe a rotation lower from this. The one thing to keep in mind about the euro, and you'll see the same thing on the pound, is that these markets are carving out some imbalances on the way up. Okay. Now, it doesn't mean that the market has to go back there and fill those imbalances, but just know that there is liquidity left on the table back here in this candle. Same thing with today. Okay. If we don't see a retrace early next week, just keep in mind that there are some imbalances here. that could come into play over the coming days and weeks, because we know that markets seek liquidity. Okay, but clearly in an uptrend right now, clearly a breakout from that 2021 trend line. So that's what I'm looking for, a potential continuation of this, at least until the DXY sweeps those lows, like I mentioned. Okay, I think you've got to be careful though with the DXY coming into 104 support and the euro coming into these highs just below 1.0925. Now, 110 is also going to be a level to watch here over the coming weeks if we do see it retested. And that's simply because you can see back here, we had two highs at this level. We had the late 2023 rally close back below, and this is what really kicked off 2024 and that overall downtrend that we saw here from the euro. Now, what you're going to notice recently is we did get a higher low back here. Okay, so lower lows this entire time and a higher low. So that could be significant as well. And again, it does look relatively bullish here for the euro, but just be careful with the DXY coming into 104 and the euro coming into some of these recent highs. The pound is really taken off this week. GBPUSD, we did see a weekly close above this level last week. So one thing that we talked about here recently was the fact that the pound did close last week above that 2021 trend line. And it's no coincidence that the market found support right there at that key level. Okay, so one thing though that I want to show you guys for the pound, and this is really, really important here, is, the question is right now is the market getting a little bit ahead of itself? Clearly bullish, right? I'm not saying that it's not, but I do think you've got to be a little bit careful with this right now, just with where this market is going. Now, I'm going to show you guys a little trick though. When you get a breakout like this from a wedge pattern or triangle or whatever you want to call it. Okay, so we've got this trend line down here off of these lows. And we've also talked about this one a lot recently as well. So what you can do, one trick that you can do when you have a wedge pattern like this is you can take that level and copy it over. And this won't always work. However, it does actually line up perfectly in this case. If you take this up here, okay, what you're going to notice is that we do have a lot of highs off of this level. So, and even lows actually, in fact, we've got these highs back here. You've got these highs. We had a little bit of a breakout here, but notice what happened right after that failed. This close right here, you had a retest as new resistance. This lower new support here, resistance, resistance, resistance. Okay, you get the idea. So I think that this is going to be something to keep an eye on. And when you think about the DXY, what we talked about there with 103.50, I think this is going to be really interesting to see what happens up here next week, right around 1.3050 or so. Okay, I think that's going to be a level to watch here for the pound, just because, again, this does run parallel to this level down here that we've talked about. And there's also a lot of play at this level over the past year and a half. This is a very long running trend line for the pound. Okay, so you can see here, if we go toward the daily, what you're going to notice is that this is basically just one big channel here, right, for this market. Okay, so this is going to be something to watch up here in this area. And I don't think that it would be, surprising to see this market pull back, because it's been on a tear for the past few days. I mean, all week long, you've got these imbalances that have built up. So I'm not saying go out and short the market right here at this level, but I do think that this is something to pay attention to over the coming days. If you're long here from somewhere back here in this area, or maybe through this breakout, you can see we got the breakout retest right here as new support. So if you were able to get long there, I think that this is the region, and obviously this is just my opinion, but I think that this is the area to really watch next week to, at least take partial profit, if not the entire thing, just because, again, I think that this pattern right here is really striking for the pound. And it's something that could come into play within the next few days. And I just want to see something here too. I just noticed something here off of these recent highs and lows within this trend. So this could be something as well. Let's see if this lines up here. So off of those lows and these highs up here, and you can see where we even have a smaller channel that has developed within this price action going back to April. Okay, so this also provides a little bit of confluence up there right around 130.50. Okay, so for the pound, we have the DXY coming into 104 support. So for the pound, resistance up here based on this high. So maybe a pullback next week, some consolidation, and then we get that move up here to retest 130.50. At that point, I think you've got to be really careful, because we have the top of this longer running channel, and then you've also got this shorter term channel coming in right there in the same area. Okay, so still bullish on this market for now, at least over the next few days. Maybe a pullback from this 1.3 area, but I think that 130.50 over the coming days is going to be the one to watch for the pound. All right, next up is the dollar yen, guys, which has obviously been on a tear for quite a long time. So ever since the start of this year, this market has moved significantly higher. You look at the start of this year down here, up here to the recent high, you're talking about over 2,000 pips. So just a massive move from this market. However, there are cracks starting to form. And the first one is the fact that right now the dollar yen looks like it's about to lose, or did lose, 160.3. So this high from right back here. And the second one being, if you look here at the start of this year, we have a trend line off of these 2024 lows. Okay, so this was the start of the year. You've got this low down here, you've got these lows, this one here, these through this area, and now a potential breakdown developing for the dollar yen. Now, you do have to be careful though, shorting, the dollar yen, because you are essentially buying the Japanese yen, and that really hasn't worked in traders' favor so far in 2024. But if we do get a breakdown, I mean, there's no question that this market is probably due for a pullback, just given the amount of area this market has covered this year to the upside. Now, looking here at this other trend line down here, this could also be something here over the coming days and weeks. Now, I'm going to go to the weekly time frame because it's really difficult to see on the daily, but you'll notice that all the way back here off of this low in 2022. Okay, so back here in 2022, we've got these lows through here. This one is start 2024, and this has not been tested since the start of 2024. Now, what's also really interesting, okay, and this could be something as we move into the end of the year, because this could take some time to play out, but this trend line seems to get tested at the start of a new year or just after. You can see back here, right? 2022 back here, 2023, and we've got 2024. And each time it was pretty darn close to that area. So it seems to be about, a 12-month period or so, give or take a few months, between retest on this level. So, there's no guarantee that will continue, of course, but that could be an indication of how long it could take for this market to pull back. But the bottom line here, guys, is that this market has been in rally mode for some time, but there are cracks starting to show. So for next week, what I'm looking for here, if we get a convincing break below this trend line, could be a little bit lower. That's the thing with trend lines, but I would peg this level right about 158.3 or so. I think if we see this level break down here today, then we could get a retest up here in this area next week, potentially a flush of those early shorts, but then areas like this down here around 155.6 come into play. Now, this is more of a weekly level for the dollar yen that we've talked about before. All right, so you can see that back here, we got the close below here. Okay, so close above, close back below, and then close back above. It was very choppy through here. But then what you'll notice is it did hold up through here as support and also through here. Now, the reason 155.6, the reason I've paid attention to this level is because of a level that goes back decades. And for that, we have to flip over to the FXCM chart for the dollar yen. And what you'll notice here on the monthly is if we go all the way back here to this price action, okay, this is 155.6 for the dollar yen. So this goes all the way back to the 1990s. So 1990 had this pivot through here, so support and then resistance. So, fast forward to today, you can see it is holding up on a weekly closing basis. We've also got this area up here at 160.3. So it's no coincidence that when you flip over here to what's happened recently, okay, again, we've got 160.3. This was the high back here. It's also the recent lows, and we are seeing a breakdown from that level. Okay, so starting to look a little bit toppy here for the dollar yen, as long as it's below this area between, like I said, 158.3 to 158.5, and really below 160.3, then I am looking for a pullback here from this market. Now, obviously, if next week we were to see the market just reclaim this area once again, then that right there would be bullish. But right now, I do think some of these lower levels like 155.6 could come into play next week. And last but not least, we have the Australian dollar versus the US dollar. And this has been a very choppy market, not even just the past, year and a half, but even through a price action like this here recently, it has been very difficult to trade, but we do have a couple levels here to keep an eye on over the coming days. So right now the market is breaking out from a trend line that goes back to January. Okay, so off of these recent highs, you can see these highs back here, this one here, and then right before this week's breakout. And you can even see we're here on Thursday. The Australian dollar did try to break out and it closed below that level. Now today is obviously back in rally mode and it looks like the market will close below this area. So for next week, guys, if this market can hold above 676, okay, 0.676, then I do think we could see that move up here toward levels like 68.60, this high from back here. Now, alternatively, of course, if we see the market close up here today and then next week close back below this, then we would have a failed breakout on our hands, And that could send this market lower back here toward this trend line and potentially lower. All right, so we'll see how this goes, guys, over the coming days. I mean, clearly the market has been in a range here for quite a long time, about a year and a half here. And we do have these highs up here that could come into pressure if we do see the DXY continue to break down. But again, you've got to be careful with trying to long things like the Australian dollar because we are seeing the DXY come into that 104 support. And even that 103.50 area on the DXY, remember, there's a lot of liquidity down there. If the market sweeps that and reclaims 104, then we could see a pullback, from markets like this. But you've also got to go with what's on the chart, right? Don't try to front run this with a short or anything like that. The market is breaking out from this trend line. So as long as this area through here holds up as new support, we do have the potential for a run at highs like this up here around 68.70. Subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon. And don't forget to join us in VIP. Claim your 90% off, lifetime access to the Discord group, and also course. See the link in the description of this video, or if you're on the website, click on that join VIP link. Have a great weekend, and I will talk to you again next week.